All right, y'all. Let me break down one of the coldest, boldest, funniest, and most iconic FU moments in American history. Forget Houdini. Forget Copperfield. Forget Chris Angel in his tight black jeans pretending to float down the Vegas Strip. The greatest escape artist this country has ever seen was a black man born enslaved in Virginia who looked at slavery and said, "I'm done. Y'all clowns can't hold me. I'm shipping myself out of here." His name was Henry Box Brown. And yes, he literally mailed himself to freedom. Now let's set the stage. It's Virginia in 1815, slavery's headquarters. Tobacco plantations, auction blocks, and slave patrols lurking like dollar store Batman knockoffs. Henry grew up in Richmond working in a tobacco factory. You think your job sucks? Try coughing up black dust every morning while a man who can't read yells at you about quotas. Overseers weren't geniuses. They were broke dudes with whips who failed at every other job except cruelty. These people were America's first middle management, except instead of Excel spreadsheets, they had chains. And then came the real cruelty, family destruction. Henry's wife and children sold off like used furniture, gone, just like that. And here's the kicker, his master, the man who supposedly owned him, sold them off because he was broke. These planters liked to pretend they were Southern nobility, sipping mint juleps on the porch. But the truth, they were debt-ridden clowns who couldn't run a lemonade stand without enslaved labor. They called themselves masters, but half of them couldn't master basic math. And Henry looked at that and said, "Why am I letting fools who can't even keep their own wives faithful tell me I can't be free?" So he hatches the plan of the century. He connects with a free black man and a white shoemaker who hated slavery. Together they say, let's play their game. If they treat us like property, we'll act like property. Henry gets himself a wooden crate, 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, 2.5 feet deep. Fam, that's not a box, that's a coffin with branding. They drill a couple air holes, hand him 1 jug of water and a stale biscuit, and slap on the most ironic shipping label in American history. This side up with care. Let's pause. Houdini had stage assistants. Copperfield had camera tricks. Henry had 1 stale-ass biscuit and the audacity of hope. That's the difference. So they nail him in, ship him out, and Henry embarks on the wildest 27-hour journey ever. Wagon, train, steamboat, back to wagon, tossed around like Amazon Prime on a bad day. Remember that label? This side up? Yeah. Worker said, "Nah, let's play Tetris." They flipped him upside down for hours. Blood rushing to his head, veins popping, eyes bulging. But Henry stayed silent. Slave catchers were out here bragging about how they could track fugitives with dogs, how they could sniff out freedom from miles away. Meanwhile, Henry rode past them literally under their noses. You had whole gangs of armed men with rifles, horses, and bloodhounds, and they got beat by a box. Imagine being a professional slave catcher and losing to plywood. That's like being a cop bragging about your toughness and then getting punked by FedEx delivery. Finally, Henry's box lands in Philadelphia at the Anti-Slavery Society office. Abolitionists gather around like, "Lord, please let him be alive." They pry it open. And what does Henry do? He doesn't scream, doesn't cry, doesn't gasp for air. He dusts himself off, stands up straight, and says, "How do you do, gentlemen?" That, my friends, is the coldest line in American history. Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death." Cute. Henry Brown actually took liberty and made death wait in the hallway. And here's the aftermath. The North went wild. Abolitionists turned him into a hero. He toured, told his story, even recreated the stunt on stage. Meanwhile, the South had a full meltdown. Slaveholders were humiliated. They called themselves masters of men, but they got dunked on by a man with a biscuit. Some even tried to change shipping laws. Imagine that. Politicians debating how to regulate boxes because Henry clowned their whole system with a crate. The so-called smartest men in the South were standing red-faced in Congress like, "Mr. Speaker, I move that all boxes must now be searched for black men." That's how dumb slavery was. And let's talk symbolism. That box was supposed to be a coffin, but Henry flipped it. He went in enslaved, came out free. That box became a womb of liberation, a rebirth. Houdini escaped chains, but Henry escaped America's greatest crime. Houdini risked embarrassment. Henry risked death. Houdini wanted applause. Henry wanted his humanity. Tell me again who the greatest escape artist was. And let me drag the slave catchers one more time. These dudes strutted around with whips, guns, and dogs, acting like the boogeymen of the South. Whole careers built on hunting people. And they got clowned by silence. No dogs barking, no chase through the woods. They lost to air holes and patience. They should have all retired in shame. Henry Box Brown lived until 1897. He saw slavery fall, saw emancipation, saw Reconstruction. He lived long enough to watch America argue about whether freedom should actually mean freedom while he walked around as living proof that resistance works. His very existence was a slap in the face to every slaveholder who thought they owned him. So don't tell me Houdini was the greatest escape artist. Don't tell me Copperfield. The greatest was Henry Box Brown, the man who made slavery look like the dumbest institution in world history by climbing in a crate and riding it to freedom. He didn't just escape, he made the whole system look like a joke. And that's why his name deserves to be remembered as one of the most iconic in American history. This is clickbaity political thirst trap. Subscribe to my TikTok channel, to Marcus for America. Subscribe to my YouTube channels, Clickbaity Political Thirst Trap and Marcus Farrell Live for more content just like this. Like, share, drop a comment. And tell me honestly, could you last 27 hours in a wooden box for your freedom? Or would you be banging on the lid after 15 minutes like, y'all, let me out? Henry Brown didn't tap out. He tapped into legend.